Well, earlier this week, I drove about 20 miles up to our local Ford dealership, hoping to get this, our seatbelt repaired. Some of you have talked about this in videos. How did this happen? Well, we own a pup dog that when she gets anxious and she thinks that she can escape sometimes by chewing through the seatbelts. This is the fourth one that she's done that to. So we made an appointment before our next trip to go up to the Ford dealer and get this repaired. So I woke up early, drove up the mountain, went to the Ford dealership, and I was surprised when I walked in. Why? Because they were checking people in with pen and paper. Not the new way with a computer, but with pen and paper. What had happened? Well, if you've been following the news, and you probably already know, the Ford dealerships, along with lots of others in North America, have been impacted by the CDK ransomware, so they couldn't check me in. After a few minutes, I realized that the seatbelt we'd ordered, it may have not been ordered at all because of this, and if it had been ordered, they were not going to be able to find it in their warehouse. So I ran a few more errands, got in the van, and headed back home, only to find that at the very bottom of the mountain, this happened. I'm riding home from my unsuccessful attempt to get the seatbelt repaired over here on our Ekko, and I ran into this. I almost got by it, but the truck in front of me stopped, and this is what happens when you ride your brakes coming down a mountain. Whew, that smells too. Mountain passes like this, even for RVs like we have here, you have to be careful. If you ride your brakes the entire time, especially if your brakes are a little old, or you're a little overweight or anything, well, things like this can happen. So and traffic's backed up quite a bit. Since we can't get the seatbelt repaired, I've decided I'm going to try to do something on my own. I'm going to try to merge together a little seatbelt web with the one that's there to replace the bad spot. I think it will work fine, but then when I see things like this where there are accidents that are extremely serious, I don't know. If you know me, you know that maybe I consider myself to be a little bit handy. DIY king. Actually, I've gotten several degrees from the University of YouTube. So I set off to YouTube thinking that surely there's a way that I can fix this myself and save $900. That's right, $900. So I found this. It's made by Sailrite, the company that helps you to sew sails and other things on boats. And a little bit of research showed that unless I just don't need the total length of the seatbelt, I can either cut it and put it back together and sew it, or I can maybe even repair the piece that Maggie bit into. So this came this morning, the day before we leave for our next trip, and I'm going to do this and see if I can get this thing to work. Wish me luck. Especially wish me luck, because if this doesn't turn out, Lynn is going to have my hide. She might sew it with this stuff. Now don't worry, I have the manual. It comes with 12 pictures. I think I can do this. Let's take a closer look at what Maggie chewed through. My thought process is, don't accuse me of thinking, my thought process is somehow trim this up a little bit and sew it back together. If that doesn't work, plan B is to remove a piece of this and make it shorter. Because if you look, this sucker, this seatbelt could hold a well, so I don't think it needs to be that long. If that doesn't work, plan C is to order another web and do all the sewing to reattach it. I'm doing all this while I film, which might not be smart anyway. Might be like a $5 hooker now. I'm using scissors on our seatbelt. What can go wrong, right? Okay, didn't take long for me to determine that it's on to plan B. Now, one of the things I have to do is figure out a way that I can get more of this out without this entire thing sucking up into the little ratchet piece, because if that happens, I'm really screwed. So I did put a safety clip there because I do not want that thing to go back up in there. As far as I know, my way of thinking is that's the only thing that's going to ruin this project, totally ruin it, is if that goes up in there. I can sew this. It can take me all day to do it maybe, but you know what? If that goes up in there, I don't know. I'm not sure what we'll do. First thing we have to do is fray the ends of this. Now, I'm going to make sure everything fits here. So here's what I have so far. I'm thinking that if I overlap by that much, if you look at the seams that they use, it's pretty much the same kind of thing. So let's put one in here. Okay, so it took me a while to figure it out, but I know how to sew, but doing leather like that, man, I'm not very good at that. But it took me a minute, but I figured out that I have an upholstery needle. It will go through, and I can sew it with this really heavy-duty thread, and it's a lot faster and a lot easier. Here's what I've gotten done so far. About a third of one side. All right, it's hot as a firecracker out here, and my legs are starting to cramp up from being down here, but I think I'm going to get it done. So let's take all my safety gear off. Well, now the seatbelt's locked in place. Not sure what to do now. Guess I've got to do a little research, see if I can figure out how to unlock the seatbelt. Okay, I've done a little research, and what I did in sewing that didn't cause this problem, but when I wrapped it around and pulled it tight, some of you may have figured that out when I was doing that. I pulled that retractor down at the bottom underneath the molding. I pulled it really tight. I've got to be able to get to it now to knock it loose to give myself enough slack to pull it back out. One thing leads to another. And by the way, did I mention that it is 94 degrees right now? Whew. There are a lot of ways to solve this, but I found what I think is the simplest. Just about have this bolt off, and I'll raise the seatbelt up enough to be able to get it free and pull. Hopefully, Bob's your uncle. Let it free, pull it back down. Hey! Now, I thought of 5 or 6 different ways that would have been a lot more difficult than that to fix this. Nothing's ever as easy as you plan for it to be. I wish we could have gotten this replaced, even though it was going to be around $900 to do that. And on the other hand, I'm glad that I took the time to do this. It's taken me about an hour and 45 minutes to do all of this, mainly because of a few things I did wrong. Is it perfectly safe? No. Is it safer than what we've been using for the last year and a half? By far. It's a whole lot safer. And it works. And it doesn't look bad. And let me see, I'll show you. It's got a few places here that look like they're sewed together. And we will schedule an appointment to get it fixed, maybe after the CDK ransomware thing is over. Whew.
hot day to do a project like this. Is that what usually happens to you too? You pick the wrong day, you do the wrong things, you make a couple of mistakes, and boom, something that should have taken 15 minutes takes an hour and 45 when you only had 30 minutes to get it done. Oh well. Thanks for laughing at me. I can't wait to see the comments in this one. There are going to be a bunch of them down there. I can just see you guys typing now. I wouldn't let my wife ride in that. I would not even drive that thing. I don't even wear seatbelts. I don't know what you're going to say. Bottom line is we're safer than we were. Not as safe as we're going to be, but who knows. Thanks for being part of our journey. Hope it doesn't end up on the side of a ditch somewhere. See you down the road.